Are they Tom's books behind us? Or
They're John Billett's, actually.
Some of them, yeah.
Look at it.
Let's pretend they're Tom's, because I want to make a joke at his expense.
Okay. Shall I mention the books? Coming up on this special episode, we talk to the Director of Media and Advertising at ISBA. Hello and welcome to IDCOM's Media Snack episode 22. We have a special episode this week. I am delighted to welcome Mark Finney, the newly appointed Director of Media and Advertising at ISBA, the trade body that represents the advertiser community. I'm going to be talking to Mark today about the initiatives that ISBA are championing and also what's on his to-do list as he approaches his new role. All on today's Media Snack in just the time it takes to eat a sandwich. So Mark, welcome to IDCOM's Media Snack.
Thank you very much.
You are the Director of Media and Advertising at ISBA.
That's true.
Newly appointed, been in the job, I think,
4 weeks, just about.
Many congratulations.
Thank you.
For those that are watching and listening that don't know who ISBA is, can you provide an introduction?
Yeah, ISBA. So ISBA is the trade body that represents advertisers only. So it's the Incorporated Society of British Advertisers. So unlike some of the other trade bodies that you will have heard of, IPA, for example, represents agencies. The Advertising Association, the AA, is purely about public affairs. Our only focus is on the advertiser. We dub ourselves the voice of the British advertiser.
And how many members do you have at ISBA?
Currently, I think it's at an all-time high. I think it's around 450 different brands represented, and that's about £10 billion worth of advertising spend.
And so what do you do? What are your kind of guiding principles?
You mean ISBA or?
ISBA,
yeah. So ISBA, there's four main areas that we deal with. One is lobbying on behalf of advertisers to enable them to advertise in a responsible way. So that might mean working closely with government. So, for example, a current issue is the mooted privatisation of Channel 4. Mm-hmm. Which we've lobbied very strongly against because we believe that Channel 4 is part of the diversity of broadcast ecosystem, reaches a unique audience, typically more upscale, more male, and offers programming and audiences which are just not available on mass market channels such as ITV, Channel 5 or whatever. So that's one example. Others might be unfair, draconian legislation in areas like sugar and salt and high fat and so on. So things like that we lobby on behalf of advertisers. Right. And also other regulatory bodies. So the EU, for example, is something that an organisation that we have a lot of dealings with, and their rulings affect advertisers in quite dramatic ways. Yeah. So for example, data protection, data privacy is something coming fast. New laws on that due in 2018, and there's a lot of money at stake for advertisers that get it wrong. Right. So it's not just lobbying, but it's also understanding and preparing advertisers for the effect that these pieces of legislation might have on them.
So you champion the interests of advertisers in the UK?
Absolutely, yeah. In all aspects, really.
And your counterparts on the agency side is the IPA.
That's right.
Do you have a healthy, constructive, productive relationship with the IPA?
We work side by side with the IPA. You asked me about what ISBA does. Another important tenet of the service is to foster better relationships between advertisers and agencies. So obviously, taking the lead on that, we want to ensure that we have a good and healthy, positive working relationship with the IPA. So many of the things that sometimes ISBA might be criticised for example, the new media contract that we can, maybe we want to talk about that a little bit later.
But if you could simplify the purpose of ISBA in a simple phrase, what would it be?
Purpose is I think it's a really good word to use, because there is a higher purpose to ISBA, I think, than what I've talked about already. I've gone through some detail on benefits, I suppose, to members, but really the bigger purpose is to ensure that advertisers do have a strong and well-resourced trade body that can fight their corner. So for advertisers, it's the responsible thing to do, to be part of ISBA, part of the collective effort. If you want to have a strong trade body and the benefits that can deliver, many advertisers don't join because they think, well, somebody else can do that for us, and we'll just sit back behind their coattails. But I think it's the right thing for advertisers to do.
So Mark, you've been in the role for 4 weeks.
4 weeks. 4 weeks tomorrow.
Your predecessor, Bob Wootton, was in the role for 2 decades.
20 years, yeah. He actually left last Friday, and I think it was 2 years, 20 years, sorry, to the day, I think, almost.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And he championed so many issues on behalf of the advertisers. These are massive shoes to fill.
Yeah, they are, and it would be impossible to replace Bob, to be honest. He's a huge figure in media, and I would like to think that within the scope of this job there's enough space for me to do things in my own way, and I think it would happen like that anyway. So rather than trying to fill Bob's shoes, I'd like to think that I'll wear different shoes and do it in my own way.
And what hot topics or key agenda items are you going to bring to your role in ISBA?
Yeah, well, I think the way to look at it is where I can see gaps, maybe, things that we're maybe not giving enough attention to. So there's a huge focus on digital for very good reasons. I mean, that's where a lot of the very, very big and difficult problems are. But there's also lots of distraction there, with issues relating to technology, although they do assume a big space in media. Relatively speaking, for example, programmatic is still small compared to the spend that is going into, for example, TV and other media. So I would like to think that maybe there's a way to rebalance our focus.
And we couldn't have a media snack without referencing, the kind of the biggest issue of all, if you like, that's facing our industry at the moment, and that's transparency and the lack of trust, perhaps, between advertiser and agency. How are ISBA, again, beginning to sort of try and deal with the issues of transparency?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a perennial, it's been around in some shape or form as an argument between advertisers and their agencies since I started in media a long time ago now, getting on for 3 decades ago. But I've never seen a time in our industry's history, since I've been involved anyway, where the trust between advertisers and agencies is being so low, and the relationship's so bad. So, I mean, a recent initiative which ID Comms has helped and input to is the development of a new media contract template, which the idea being that it's a template which surfaces issues like transparency in a very practical way, giving advertisers the arguments and the tools within a contractual framework to actually have these discussions with their agency. Again, the purpose of this is to improve the relationship, improve trust. The reason being that, I mean, the trading practices are opaque, and it doesn't mean that all agencies are up to no good. It's like the Panama Papers thing. You shine a light on that suddenly, and the suspicion is that there are murky dealings, but it's not necessarily the case. What advertisers need is the ability to be able to get sight of what's really going on. So, for example, the contract will enable those advertisers that choose to use it the ability to audit an agency at network level, at group level. So their initial contract may be with a specific agency, but often the suspicion is that a lot of the actual trading and the action is taking place at a higher level within a group deal or something.
Yeah. So it obliges the agencies to make decisions in the best interests of clients, which you would hope that they would do anyway, but perhaps sometimes isn't always the case.
Yes, I mean that's. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think there's also a bigger area of murkiness. I could use that word again.
You can use murkiness
around data, you know, and what happens with clients' data once they commit their money to a campaign, and an agency is learning and gathering lots of information. What happens to it then? Do they own it? Is it being used to assist one of their competitors? I mean, this is nothing new, you know. I mean, the issues around conflict and so on, and Chinese walls. All agencies have faced these questions.
But it was a brilliant initiative, and as you say, we contributed to its development. It was led by a colleague of yours, Debbie Morrison.
Yes,
and it was launched officially to your members on Tuesday evening.
That's right.
Has it been shared with the IPA yet?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I think there's no reason why it shouldn't be shared with the IPA now it's out of embargo and so on. So yeah, I think they have it.
And I understand that some of your members have already started beta testing it, right? So
I think that was part of the process of development, where you can tell me better than I can, because it all happened before I arrived. So yeah, there's been some already practical field testing of it, and the point to get across is that it's a template. It's not going to be useful for all in its current state for all advertisers. They'll have to adapt it to their own needs, and indeed they don't have to use it.
But it's a landmark development, in my opinion. For 10 years, we haven't had anything that is broadly considered to be best practice in terms of framework, contractual framework that perhaps addresses the balance between agency and advertiser. And this is very much protective of advertiser rights, and it's a brilliant initiative that you guys have come to the market with.
Well, very kind of you to say so.
I'm absolutely certain that most of your members, if they don't already have a robust enough contract, will be using it. Okay, which brings us nicely on to your American counterparts. The ANA are hosting their annual conference in Florida next week. Are you attending?
Unfortunately, I won't be. I would have liked to, and maybe next year. But I had a prior commitment to go on a boating trip along some canals, I believe.
Sounds lovely.
Near Manchester. So
sure you'll enjoy it.
That'll be lovely, I think. And
but for the rest of the American marketing and procurement community, they're going to be in Florida, enjoying better weather than I'd imagine you will be. And I think there is a sense of anticipation that the ANA will reveal something from the recent rebate investigation that's been going on. I mean, have you heard anything? Do you know if they're going to officially issue or share the report or have any discussion around that?
Well, I mean, one would hope so. I mean, that would be the perfect forum to do it, wouldn't it? But I do believe that the initial deadline or their initial prediction when they would have something to share has been delayed.
Right.
So let's hope so.
But I'd imagine it's going to be a hot topic of gossip and discussion around the corridors and the bars of the conference, which is probably where we'll find Tom Denford at some stage next week.
Yeah, I mean, it's one to really watch, because if it does really gain traction in the US, then one can only imagine that it's going to come here next. So, these issues we talked about earlier, raised by the conference, all this is really quite timely. We can, as an industry, gear up ready for that if it does come.
Well, we'll be keeping a close eye on that. Okay, well, thank you, Mark. It's been really insightful.
It's a pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
To you today, and I wish you the best of luck in your role.
Very kind. Thanks a lot.
And many congratulations.
Thank you for inviting me into your home.
Thank you very much. You like our new books?
Particularly like the new collection of books, which I think you said that John...
Yeah, as we mentioned in last week's episode, they were generously donated by John Billis.
My former boss.
There we go. There's another connection.
He's a very, very fine gentleman. So Tom had to move all his Harry Potter stuff off there, I heard, which...
he's taken them to Florida with him.
He's taken them to Florida, so yeah.
Okay, so that's it for this week. Join us again next week when we will be trying to deliver a live broadcast from Florida. That should be an experience for all of us. But in the meantime, have a great weekend.